Let's get straight to it. Number 10, the ice cube scream. You drop an ice cube into a glass of water. It cracks. Sometimes it even makes a loud popping sound. You've heard it 1,000 times and never thought twice. But physicists have. When water freezes, it expands. The outer layer of the ice cube warms up slightly when it hits room temperature water, creating stress between the cold inner core and the warmer outer shell. That stress releases violently, causing microscopic cracks that propagate faster than the speed of sound in ice. The pop you hear is a miniature sonic boom. Here's where it gets weird. Ice cubes only crack if the water used to make them contained dissolved gases. If you boil the water first to remove the gas, the ice cubes freeze completely clear and never crack. Your tap water contains tiny bubbles that get trapped during freezing. When the ice warms, those bubbles expand and fracture the crystal structure. The physics is settled. We know exactly why it happens. But predicting which specific cube will crack and which won't, that's a game of chance. Too many variables. Water purity, freezing rate, ambient temperature, even the shape of the tray. Your ice cube just performed a tiny act of chaos, and you didn't even notice. Number 9, the cold water faucet. You turn on the cold water tap. It runs warm for a few seconds before turning cold. You assume it's just the pipes. It's not. The water sitting in your pipes has been absorbing heat from the surrounding air, slowly warming up to room temperature. When you turn on the tap, you're flushing out that warm water before the cold water from the main supply reaches you. But here's the thing. The rate at which that pipe water warms or cools depends on the temperature of your house, the insulation of your walls, and the ground outside. In winter, the pipes are colder, so the water sitting in them cools down faster. But the water from the main supply is also colder, so the temperature difference feels more dramatic. It's a simple game of heat transfer, but one that plays out differently in every home, making it feel like a trick every time you turn the tap. Your faucet runs warm because the laws of thermodynamics are playing a subtle game with you. Number 8, the microwave blind spot. You heat up leftovers, take a bite, and one section is lava while the other is still cold. You think it's your microwave's fault. It's not. Microwaves are electromagnetic waves that bounce around the metal interior like a game of pinball. They create hot and cold zones called standing waves, where the energy overlaps in some areas and cancels out in others. The wavelength of a microwave is about 12.2 centimeters. That means there are fixed points inside your microwave where the energy is intense and fixed points where it's nearly zero. If your food happens to sit in a cold spot, it simply won't heat. The rotating turntable helps, but it's not perfect because the waves are still bouncing around the same chamber. Engineers have been fighting back with turntables, mode stirrers, and even multiple magnetrons. They've made it better, but they haven't beaten physics entirely. The standing waves are stubborn. So your food isn't heating evenly because physics decided that 12.2 centimeters is the perfect distance to ruin your dinner. And the weirdest part, the same standing wave principle is used in lasers and even in particle accelerators. The technology that heats your frozen burrito is the same physics that smashes atoms. Number 7, the soap bubble mirror. You blow a soap bubble and watch it float. It's beautiful, it's iridescent, and it's a physics nightmare. The colors you see come from light interfering with itself as it reflects off the thin film of soap and water. The thickness of the film determines which colors get canceled and which get reflected. As the bubble floats, gravity pulls the water down, constantly changing the thickness. That's why the colors shift and swirl. But here's the mystery. Bubbles shouldn't exist. The surface tension of water wants to minimize surface area. The smallest possible shape for a given volume is a sphere. That part works, but the water film itself should drain down and pop within seconds due to gravity. The soap molecules stabilize the film by forming a double layer that slows drainage. This stabilization is extremely sensitive to temperature, humidity, and even dust. A single microscopic particle can destabilize the entire film and pop it. Scientists have tried to create stable bubbles in controlled lab environments, and they can keep them alive for hours. But then, without warning, they just pop. The exact moment of rupture is still a subject of intense study, a complex dance of gravity, evaporation, and surface forces that physicists are still working to fully choreograph. A bubble's death is more mysterious than its life. Number 6, the unpoppable popcorn kernel. You microwave a bag of popcorn. Most of it pops, but a handful of kernels are always left behind, stubborn and unpopped. You assume they're just bad kernels. They're not. Every popcorn kernel contains a specific amount of moisture trapped inside its starchy endosperm. When heated, that moisture turns to steam, building pressure until the kernel explodes. The pressure required is about 9 times atmospheric pressure. The kernel shell, called the pericarp, acts like a pressure vessel. But here's the catch. The pericarp needs a tiny flaw or weak spot to release the steam at the right moment. Without it, the steam builds up and slowly escapes through microscopic pores instead of bursting. The kernel just sits there, heating up without ever exploding. The exact conditions required for a perfect pop involve the internal moisture level, the heating rate, and the structural integrity of the shell. Popcorn companies spend millions researching how to make every kernel pop. They found that uniform moisture content and controlled heating can achieve over 90% pop rates. But 100% is impossible because each kernel is slightly different. The unpopped kernel isn't defective. It's just a pressure vessel that didn't fail spectacularly enough. Number 5, the refrigerator hum mystery. Your refrigerator hums. You've heard it a million times, but sometimes it hums louder, sometimes softer, and sometimes it stops completely. You don't think about it, but the compressor is doing something incredible. It's pumping a refrigerant through a closed loop, compressing it into a liquid, then allowing it to expand and cool. The hum is the sound of the compressor motor working, but the volume changes because the compressor isn't a constant speed machine. It adjusts its output based on the temperature inside the fridge. When you open the door, warm air rushes in, and the compressor works harder to cool it down. When you close the door, it slows down. It's a variable speed pump that knows exactly how hard to work. And here's the thing, the vapor compression cycle in your fridge has been refined for over a century. It's a testament to engineering optimization, a simple, elegant loop that's been perfected to near maximum efficiency. The hum is the sound of a machine that's been beating thermodynamics at its own game for over 100 years. Number 4, the burning candle wave. You light a candle. The flame is steady, or so it appears. But in slow motion, it's dancing wildly. That flame is a chaotic boundary between vaporized fuel and oxygen. It's constantly being disturbed by the slightest air current, a draft you can't feel, your own breathing, even the heat from the flame itself creating mini convection currents. Physicists have studied candle flames extensively, and they still can't fully predict flame behavior. The flicker frequency of a candle flame is determined by the flame's height, the oxygen supply, and the ambient pressure. On the International Space Station, a candle flame burns in a perfect sphere because there's no gravity to create convection. It's dimmer, cooler, and blue. That's because on Earth, gravity pulls hot gases up, creating a constant flow of fresh oxygen. In space, the flame relies solely on diffusion, which is slower. The shape of a candle flame is literally a function of gravity. So your candle burns the way it does because Earth is pulling on it. And scientists still can't model the exact flicker pattern because the equations are too chaotic to solve. Number 3, the shower curtain attack. You're in the shower. The curtain billows inward like it's trying to hug you. You assume it's some kind of ghost. It's not. It's physics, but the physics is weirder than you'd think. There are several theories. One is the Bernoulli effect. The water spray moves air, creating a low-pressure zone inside the shower, and the higher pressure outside pushes the curtain in. Another theory is the buoyancy effect. Hot air rises inside the shower, creating a low-pressure area at the bottom that pulls the curtain in. A third suggests it's entirely due to the water droplets themselves, which drag air with them and create a secondary flow. The weird thing, all of these are partially correct, but none fully explain why the curtain always billows inward instead of outward. It's a surprisingly complex problem, a combination of the Bernoulli effect and a vortex created by the falling water. It's taken physicists decades to model it accurately. The shower curtain is a physical paradox that hid in plain sight in your bathroom, and you face it every single morning. Number 2, the wobbly washing machine. You start the spin cycle, and your washing machine begins to shake violently, walking across the floor. You think it's unbalanced. It is, but the physics behind it is a masterpiece of chaos. The machine spins a drum at high speed. If the clothes inside aren't perfectly distributed, the center of mass shifts off the rotational axis. The resulting centrifugal force creates a vibration that amplifies itself because the machine's suspension springs and dampers can't fully compensate. But here's the mystery. The vibrations don't happen randomly. They follow a pattern based on the machine's natural frequency. If the spin speed matches that natural frequency, the vibration becomes enormous, a phenomenon called resonance. The machine is literally shaking itself apart because physics decided that speed was a bad idea. Engineers have spent decades designing suspension systems to dampen this resonance, but they can't eliminate it entirely because the load and speed are always changing. Your washing machine is a physical oscillator fighting a battle against its own existence. Number 1, the quiet house scream. You're alone in your house, and it's completely silent. Then you hear it, a low, barely audible hum that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. You can't locate the source. It's not the fridge, not the AC, not the pipes. You assume it's your imagination. It's not. There's a phenomenon called the worldwide hum, or sky hum. While its exact source is still debated, many scientists believe it could be generated by ocean waves constantly beating against the continental shelves, creating a continuous, low-frequency vibration that travels through the Earth. The frequency is so low that it's barely audible, but in a quiet house, with no background noise, it becomes noticeable. The hum is present everywhere on Earth, but most people never hear it because their brains filter it out as background noise. In a silent room, your brain becomes hypersensitive to low frequencies, and can pick up this planetary drone. It's not a sound produced by your house. It's a sound produced by the planet itself. And scientists still can't fully explain why some people hear it while others don't, or why it seems to be more pronounced at night. It might be the Earth whispering to you, and you're finally quiet enough to hear it. That's it for this video. More on the way. Subscribe to catch them.